as in, the child of fate. I have arrived at the path that separates the spirit realm from the realm of the living. I can see people walking and chatting as the day progresses. Can you see that family over there? Our king pointed out, indicating a woman sitting, looking sorrowful while her husband tried to console her. It seemed like she had lost something. He continued, you will be born to that woman. When the time comes, you will need to return home. In our world, the king sends us to be born as humans, and when the time comes, we simply pass away as if we never existed. We are known as the urban children, born to die. I have appeared on earth many times, coming and going. But I always find the cries of the women as I am about to depart from earth troubling. Despite the allure of earth, something in the spirit world always calls me back. And the deep attachment of the women to me always leaves me feeling sad and frustrated. The last time I was born to a very wealthy woman in the neighboring community. Her husband owned vast lands and yam barns. When I was born, there was much celebration and feasting in honor of my arrival, but it was quite unfortunate that I did not last a week. Our king declared it was time to be born to another person. And even though I was reluctant to leave due to the sorrowful cries of the woman who called me her child, our king's command was final. We wander the spirit world until someone requires a child. We enter their womb, then we are born, we bring joy to all, and then depart suddenly. Looking at the way the woman was so sad, I moved to where she was sitting with her husband to eavesdrop on their conversation and find out what she wanted. Don't worry, just believe in the gods, you will take in, we are not in a rush, the man said. I stood there with my hands folded, watching the woman as she responded with tears in her eyes. It's been 5 years now and we don't have a child of our own. I have been patiently waiting for the gods to hear my cry. See the way Amoka's children are helping her with farm work, we are here working tirelessly with no hands to help. She complained with tears in her heart. Hearing her cry really broke me, and I made up my mind to be her child, even when I was not ready to be in the world or ready to be born. I had to change my mind because of the woman. I will go to her, I told my king, who is in charge of the children's world. He ensures the children return to the spirit world and await being born again. It was just like a cycle that never ends. I had to go back to the spirit world and prepare myself to return to the land of the living as a baby for the umpteenth time. I had lost count of the times I kept returning to the earth, but this time, I had made up my mind to stay and not even our king would stop me. I was determined to live, withstand all obstacles, although I never told my king about it to avoid staying back in the land of the spirit. I felt strange. A sound moved through my body. A bright light spun in the darkness that covered us, it called me. It whispered. It felt scary. Go into her stomach and be born again, our king commanded. The voice was soft but strong. It pulled at my thoughts. It brought me to the unknown. I stared at the light. I was amazed. He continued, when the time comes, you will be asked to return to the land of the unborn, where other children like you are waiting to be born again, our king commanded, pointing at the outside world like he had a picture of whatever was going on there. I just nodded as if I really heard what he was saying, when the only thing in my mind was how to make the woman happy by being her child, giving her the chance to be called a mother. Even though I didn't know how to go about staying, because no one had ever flaunted the words of our king. Our king was a dwarf, we all were taller than he was, but he was not an ordinary child. He had seen the world before all of us and had been here for decades, coming and going into the land of the living. He had several marks on his body to signify that he was a child who never wished to stay. I once asked him what the mark was about, and he said, "You will not understand because you have not been caught by humans and forced to stay." The children with the marks on their bodies are the ones that kept going into the land of the living and then coming back here. Humans had to place a mark on their bodies so that when we return, they would be able to identify us as the child that has refused to stay amongst the living. The marks here signify how many times I have been on earth, he said. Our king really loved and celebrated the spirit world and was able to withstand every plea to stay. It was my turn to go for the third time since my existence. Unlike him, I was tired of moving from one realm of life to the other, and I really wanted to stay and get to understand the things in the human world, even when he kept bringing up horrible stories about how humans treated newborn babies and how they were forced to stay against their wishes. At times, even cutting the connections they had with their kinds, leaving the children lonely. I didn't want that to become my fate, even though I really wanted to stay for the woman that was mocked for being childish. I stood there thinking about the measures I would take in order to stay, until our king interrupted my thoughts. "Are you ready?" He asked for the second time, and I wasn't ready. But so he wouldn't change his mind, I nodded like an Ogama lizard. "The way I'm seeing you, you might fall in love with the land of the living and refuse to return when there's time. That's why I keep educating you about the consequences of doing that." It was as though he could read my mind. We don't belong with humans. We are meant to visit and go, and leave them unsatisfied, in pain and begging for more children. "You are not allowed to have mercy on any human," he said, turning his back on me. I nodded again. There was nothing to say. He started walking away, leaving me at the boundary between the living and the world of the unborn children who roamed around searching for new parents every day. Our world was filled with unborn children, some with marks on their bodies and some were just new babies who were destined to die. I didn't leave, but I was already missing my mind. The only people I could talk to, the only people that understood me. I couldn't talk to humans. They would see it as blabbing and baby talk, even when I always communicated with them. They would only listen when I started crying. I stood still for a while, wondering if I should have a change of mind and stay back. It was obvious I was too weak and kept delaying my coming back because I felt very bad for the family I was born into. I summoned courage and took a step, then another one, and realizing it was getting late and the line connecting the world of the living and that of the unborn was becoming thinner, and if I wasn't fast I would miss being born to that family. I closed my eyes and there I was in the stomach of the woman I chose, even when she didn't know there was something in her stomach yet. I had wondered how she would feel when she found out she was expecting a child, although I was trying to decide whether I would stay or return to my world and reunite with the other children. But it seems she didn't believe she was pregnant because she never said anything. She just went on her way. When will she acknowledge that she is pregnant? I asked myself, expecting a reaction that would cause me to stay. Weeks passed and she started noticing something, so she sat her husband down and told him how she was feeling. "Nei, I'm feeling something on my stomach and this morning sickness I keep having is not normal. It seems there's a baby inside here," she said to her husband, who paid attention to everything she said. I was very excited that she had finally acknowledged my presence in her stomach, but my happiness was cut short when her husband responded, "My wife, I'm not doubting what you are saying, but it seems it is just your emotions working. You are not pregnant. You lost a child recently, and it's not that easy to have another one." He broke the only conviction that was left of her. I felt disappointed when she broke down. Was there use still staying inside her stomach? I asked myself. Well, let me keep seeing how things go. I had already chosen the family and I needed to stay. I had to remind myself, all I wanted was for both of them to recognize my existence. I wasn't an ordinary child that would come and go like the rest of the children, but I would stay. I just wanted them to believe in me. Months just faded away like it never existed, and my soon-to-be mother was just throwing up everywhere, and fever became her daily bread. "Have you gone for the midwife to check you?" her husband had asked. "Is there a use for that?" "I told you already that I'm pregnant. I know what is wrong with me," she responded with a smile. Her husband still didn't believe anything because her stomach was not growing. He didn't see anything, it was just symptoms, and he was scared that his wife was sick, or the effect of her losing her child had made her act like she was insane. At this point, I got upset that even with everything he didn't believe her. I had to kick hard, and she bent her head using one hand to touch her stomach. "The child is kicking," she finally said, but instead of being excited, her husband went inside the hut without saying another word. She had to sit on the bench outside, still holding her stomach. Then, all of a sudden, he came outside. "Enough of this madness, come with me. I will need to take you to the midwife to verify this claim of yours," he said, dragging her hand as she pleaded for him to at least allow her to walk by herself. It was obvious he was tired of her constantly talking about being pregnant. She finally released herself from his grip and followed him from behind because she didn't have a choice. They walked in the bush track until they both arrived at the midwife's hut. The midwife was not awake when they visited. "Are we not disturbing her? It's obvious she is not awake yet. We don't know the work she did in the night. Let's just go home and come back, my husband," she suggested. But her husband was determined to uncover the truth. He sat down close to the hut and refused to knock. In his mind she would just wake up and come out to see them. They both sat there for a while before the midwife came out. She was startled by them but acted like nothing happened. "So you both visited my hut this early morning, I hope all is well?" she asked, cleaning her eyes with the back of her hands. Papa had the chance to say what was on his mind and he started. "I want you to help us confirm if she is truly pregnant or not. She has been acting somehow since she lost her child and according to her she has been experiencing some pregnancy symptoms." The midwife had to check Mama closely, from her eyes, and then she said the most shocking thing that made me question if I was actually in her womb. "There is nothing inside her womb," the midwife said. "Does that woman think I will get rid of my child because she thinks the child is evil? I'm convinced this one will pity me and stay instead of closing the eyes after the naming ceremony like the rest." Mama sat down, meditating on her own, clearly out of sight from the hut. I could sense the pain in her eyes when she spoke, and I was convinced she was not going to get rid of me. Papa was searching for her. Since they both came back from seeing the woman, they had not spoken anything about me. I felt they both needed to think about it before even finding the right words to use. He went and sat next to her without saying a word at first, then he cleared his throat and started, "Let's just get rid of this child, another one will come." Mama acted like she did not hear anything he was saying at first, then he repeated the same words that sounded like a heavy object resting on her chest. "Let's get rid of this evil child before it costs us something." Mama couldn't control her anger again. "You said it the first time and still proceeded to call my child evil just because some woman said so. The girls that gave the child to me didn't know what they were doing, right? You said I should get rid of my child. You know what happened to the others? They kept coming and going like they never existed, and you expect me to get rid of this one?" She couldn't complete her statement when she stood up and went inside the hut. It was in the morning, and Mama being that way meant there was no breakfast for the morning, as Papa had spoiled her entire day. I was just so calm in the womb, I didn't want to add to whatever she was going through. I had to be on my best behavior so that she would not change her mind about me. Until that night when Papa decided to take matters into his own hands by doing the unimaginable. Mama refused to eat throughout the day even when Papa had begged her to. She had to sleep that way. Then an evil thought clouded Papa's mind, to get rid of me in the dark, forgetting that I was inside the womb of his wife. Out of desperation, he had carried a knife to stab me inside the womb even when I had fully developed, but Momo's stomach was still small as if nothing was inside it. The room was dark, with only a lantern making shadows dance on the walls, which completely scared me while I had to wait for Papa to make the move. Mama was just sleeping soundly, and I could not even wake her, my legs were too weak to kick. Papa stood in the corner, his face twisted in anger. He held a sharp knife, its blade shining. It looked cold and scary, like something that could hurt me. Until then, I didn't even notice that Papa would want to hurt me when he was desperately in need of a child. At that point, I felt so betrayed. He didn't know I had fully developed and was ready to meet him in the world of the living. With his eyes fixed on me, I knew he was going to hurt me. He was coming for me. I felt scared, so I ran to a corner of the room, but I felt more scared for Mama because he was going to hurt her too. I couldn't cry for help because nobody would help me, I just knew. At that point, I regretted the fact that I had to pick her as the reason I would want to stay in the land of the living. Mama woke up. I thought she had seen what was going on, but Papa hid somewhere, and then Mama turned to the side. She made a small, scared sound while turning, and the sound echoed in the quiet room. My heart was beating really fast, like a drum. The knife was getting closer, and the shadows in the wall looked like they were reaching for me to also take their turn when Papa would finally send me back to the land of the unborn, even though I wasn't ready to go. I was going to die before I was even born. I had begged the Creator to allow me open my eyes to see the land of the living before He would send me home. I didn't know what would happen. I just closed my eyes in the womb and waited for Him to execute His plan. You, this man has killed me, I heard Mama screaming. The sound was awful and frightening. I knew something bad had happened and I opened my eyes. The room was dark, I could barely see, but I saw Mama's hand. It was red, it was covered in blood. She had a cut on her right hand. I didn't know what happened. I was scared. While Papa was pleading, "Please don't shout, I'm sorry, it was the devil," Mama rushed outside the hut in the middle of the night. Papa had taken the knife closer to her, and while she was still sleeping, she woke up and jumped up. The knife cut her hand. He didn't mean to cut her with the knife as he stood there holding it. Whatever was controlling him ran away for good. What if I didn't wake up? It would have been my stomach, right? Because that is where you have been targeting all this while, Mama flared up, locking eyes with Papa, who didn't know what to say to her. He just stood still like a piece of furniture. He knew there was nothing he would say that would make her believe him. "Let me tie the wound." He moved closer to Mama as blood was rushing out, even though it was a small cut. Mama just didn't say a word to him. She watched as the blood kept rushing out. Then she went inside and looked for a piece of cloth. She tore it and tied it on the wound. She sat somewhere outside the hut thinking about what would have happened if she didn't wake up. So if I did not open my eyes, this man would have cut my stomach open and eaten my child away from me. "I never knew he was capable of something like this," Mama said, shrugging her shoulder at the thought of what Papa did. "This means I'm no longer safe in this house. I will need to involve the kinsman in case anything happens to me." She thought, but what if it was a mistake? She asked herself. Mistake, and he was holding a knife ready to cut me and my child into pieces. "He's not the man I married." Mama stood up like she was in for war and ran out of the compound. What was she going to do? The thought of this made my little heart sink. I just couldn't wait to find out what she was up to as my heart kept pounding fast. She used the bush track, walking fast as if she was rushing to meet with someone, then straight to another bush track. I had asked myself that very time what she was up to. She was just shaking as she walked that the stomach became uncomfortable for me. My eyes were turning. The fact that she hadn't eaten to feed me, or was it that the circumstance had made her forget to even eat? I asked myself. She kept walking, then I noticed she walked into a compound. Alas, we were at our destination. I gave a sigh of relief. The compound was covered with bushes, but there was a path that led inside. I saw wooden chairs everywhere and some men were sitting. They were men that had had their own shares of life, with wrinkled faces, old men in their early 50s. They were all sitting in a bench outside the compound. It looked like a little village hall. She hesitated before meeting the men whose eyes were fixed on her hand. As she moved closer, "My fathers, I greet you all," she greeted. "Welcome, our daughter," they all responded in unison, but they chose not to say anything about the wound on her hand. I know they saw it. She asked that she should sit down and they granted her permission to sit. My fathers, I came here to report my husband to you, she started. They all knew her husband to be a calm person. It was the first time she was complaining, more reason they were all keen on finding out what her problem was. Our daughter, one of the men called. You came at the right time. We were discussing the way forward in this village. We have not known your husband to be a bad person. We are shocked that you are coming to report him to me, the man said. The others shook their heads as well, while some just looked at her in astonishment. I was sleeping last night when I woke up and saw my husband holding a knife. I didn't know what he was doing with it so late at night. He used the knife to cut my hand. I knew he wanted to get rid of the baby growing inside me. He said the baby was evil and we needed to get rid of it. She couldn't say anything else, tears were rolling down her face. She thought about what would have happened if she hadn't woken up. She knew what she was doing was dangerous, but she didn't care at that moment. Abomination, are you sure he is okay at all? One of the old men asked, and they all deliberated amongst themselves to visit my father-to-be. Take us to your house, let's sit and have a word with him. It is good to hear from both sides before passing judgment, to be fair, they all said. Mama stood up with her hands on her waist. It was as though she was heavily pregnant, but nobody could see that I was fully formed. I knew they might have been wondering what was wrong with her, with the way she walked. She would just get to a certain point and stop, placing her hands on her waist. Are you okay? One of the men was forced to ask, with the way Mama was behaving. It's just this child inside my stomach, it's heavy, I feel it coming. The men just looked at each other without saying a word to her. They followed her silently until she got to the house. Papa was outside sweeping the hut, something he never did. I knew he was trying to please Mama. When he saw Mama coming with the elders, he dropped the broom and went to greet them. Good morning, my fathers, he said to the old men. Please have a seat while I go inside to get cola, Papa said while rushing inside. The men sat on a bench outside, murmuring amongst themselves, while Mama sat on the floor outside the hut. Shortly, Papa emerged from the hut, Mama creating space for him to pass without saying a word to him. He was with cola and some drinks. Then he served it to the elders. I hope this is a peaceful visit, Papa said, and the old men asked him to have a seat with them while they started. The eldest one cleared his throat and then said, Your wife here reported to us that you tried to kill her and her child in the womb, and since you couldn't, you decided to cut her hand with a knife. His expression changed, and the other man's gaze was fixed on Papa and how he would be able to defend himself. They waited for him to speak before they would say anything. My fathers, I will not say I didn't cut her with a knife. I could see the amazement on their faces as he continued. She has been saying she is pregnant, but the midwife keeps telling us that there is nothing inside her womb. I don't know how to explain to her anymore. Cutting her with the knife was a mistake, and I didn't know what was going on in my head when I did it. I have tried to apologize to her several times, but she just didn't listen to me. I will take any punishment given to me, Papa said as he went on his knees. I was beginning to pity him, but I knew he was capable of lying about anything since he tried to kill me. Get up, let's settle this before anything else, the old man said as Papa got up and sat on the bench. Mama was not saying anything, probably because it was not her turn to speak. It's only the person whose body itches that knows where it is itching him or her, the old man said as Papa nodded, though I didn't understand what the man meant, but I just listened. You are supposed to take it easy with her since she has lost her child several times now. You will need to go on your knees and apologize to your wife, and we will take this as a mistake. If it happens again, you know you will be banished from this village and you won't ever come back here. The man said. Then he turned to the other men. I hope I am speaking your minds, he turned to the other men who nodded in unison. Papa didn't even wait for instructions, he just moved closer to where Mama was sitting folding her hands and went on his knees. I'm sorry, my wife. I know I have wronged you first by not believing you, and then I cut you with a knife, which is something I can't live with myself. I'm sorry. It will never happen again. Please forgive me. I was hoping Mama would just leave the house and not forgive him, but she didn't let him kneel for long. She lifted him from the ground and I frowned in disgust. I have forgiven you, my husband, as she said. I don't know what happened, but I could see myself trying to crawl out of her stomach, ready to see the world with my eyes. The baby is coming. Mama screamed. The old men, their faces etched with a mixture of disbelief and awe, crowded around Mama, their eyes fixed on her stomach. A child, they gasped, their voices blending into a single, echoing question. Papa's face beamed with a smile. He was happy the men could at least see what he was going through. He rushed and held Mama, who looked like she was going to fall, just to fulfill all righteousness of being a good father. Then Mama let out another scream. I was also trying my best to drag myself out of the stomach. It was as if I was getting too fat inside there, or was I just curious to finally see the world? Either way, I just couldn't stay inside there. She might be right. Rush now and call the herbalist woman. We all want to witness this great miracle, one of the old men said. Papa didn't allow them to finish. He had always run to call the herbalist woman. I was still dragging myself out. My head had already shone when she came, and I was gasping for breath. Bring a wrapper, the herbalist woman screamed when she spotted my head. The old men just opened their mouths in shock. I had already known they would be surprised when they saw me. The herbalist woman held my head and dragged it out slowly. I could feel my body moving out of Mama's body. Even when my eyes were closed as I came out. I was sad I wouldn't be able to see the world for some days. Mama let out a deep sigh as she turned to Papa. I told you I was carrying a child. Papa was not happy to see me. The herbalist woman whispered something to Papa's ears, and Papa didn't know the right time to speak. Mama was still groaning in pain when he said, "Let's get rid of it now. It's better than nurturing it and it still dies." Mama didn't let this one slide. If anything happens to my child, I will hold you responsible, she yelled to the hearing of everyone. I could only hear their voices, but I could not see them. I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't. I had accepted it was not yet time to open them. The men looked at Papa. Remember what we told you, if anything happens to the child or the mother, you know what will happen to you, they said. He nodded as they spoke. I knew he had calmed down at that point. The old men thanked the gods and left. I had wished to see their faces, and the face of my mom. I know she was tired because I didn't hear her speak anymore. Papa's attitude scared me. If not for the way Mama held me close to herself before the herbalist woman took me away for a bath, I would have begged our king to take me back. His words ringing in my ears, "When it is time you will need to return to the land of the unborn and wait to be born again." The words struck like thunder. I didn't know how to figure out my stay, but I just knew I would do something and I would stay. The herbalist woman gave me a pat at the back and I let out a cry. It was to announce that I was born. I didn't see or hear from Mama until the time the herbalist woman was done bathing me. Could it be another woman? I asked myself, or was she scared? She encouraged Papa to get rid of me, but she was still nice to me, I had thought. I knew Mama's hand. I could feel her soft hands and the way she held me tightly, not wanting to let go. I had thought about the expression on her face. I just couldn't wait to see her. I will call you Ezin, Mama said. It wasn't my naming ceremony yet, but she had already given me a name even when I didn't understand what the name meant. I was waiting for my naming ceremony where she would have to say the meaning of my name. I knew my king would be present then to tell me it was time to go, but I had the perfect plan so I could stay back with Mama. Weeks passed, and news of my birth spread through the village like wildfire. At first, people were just curious. They whispered about how my arrival was unusual, a child born under strange circumstances. But soon, their whispers turned darker. Fear began to grow, and the villagers started saying that I was not an ordinary child. The rumor was everywhere. They said I was cursed, that my birth had angered the gods. Some believed I would bring bad luck to the village, failed harvest, sickness, or worse. An evil child, they called me. People avoided our hut, refusing to come near. When villagers passed by, they whispered prayers and held charms close to their chest, as if that could protect them from me. Mama pretended not to care, but I could feel her worry every time she held me. Her hands shook, and sometimes, I would see her staring at me, lost in thought. Even Papa didn't look at me the same way. He stayed quiet, sitting in the corner of the hut with a serious expression on his face. I knew he wasn't happy that I was there. The villagers didn't stop talking. Their fear grew stronger every day, and the whispers turned into loud talks at village gatherings. It was like a fire that no one could put out. People started saying the gods would punish the whole village unless something was done about me. The days felt darker, and I could tell something bad was coming. I didn't know what it was, but I could feel the heaviness in the air. The villagers' fear was spreading, and I was at the center of it. My birth was just the beginning, and my story was far from over. The night was quiet, but it felt heavy. Mama sat by the fire, holding me tightly in her arms. She hadn't let me go since the herbalist woman spoke about the villagers' fears. Papa sat in the corner, staring into the flames. He didn't say much, but I could see how tense he was. Late that night, footsteps came close to the hut. The sound made Mama hold me even tighter. She looked at Papa, and he grabbed his machete, ready to defend us, for the first time. Then came a sharp knock on the door. Papa opened it slowly, and the herbalist woman stood there. She was alone, carrying a bundle of herbs in her hands. Her face looked serious as she stepped inside. "I need to speak with you," she said. "What is it?" Mama asked. Her voice was calm, but I could sense the fear behind it. The herbalist woman sighed. "The villagers are scared," she said. "They think the child is the cause of the bad harvest and the sickness in the animals. They are saying she should be taken away, or," she paused before finishing, "or she should be sacrificed." Mama's face turned pale. Her grip on me grew tighter, and I could feel her shaking. "My child is innocent," she said loudly. "She is not a curse." The herbalist woman shook her head. "I know you believe that, Mama Ezin, but the villagers don't. They say the gods must be angry. They demand proof that your child is pure." Papa stood up, his face hard. "Proof? What kind of proof?" he asked. The herbalist explained. "There is a ritual," she said. "It will show if the child is blessed or cursed. If she passes, the villagers will leave you in peace. But if she fails," she didn't finish her sentence. Mama's voice cracked. "I won't let anyone harm her." The herbalist looked at Mama. "If you don't agree to the ritual, the villagers will come to the hut themselves. You won't be able to stop them." Mama stared at her, then at Papa. There was fear in her eyes, but also determination. "Fine," she said. "We'll do it. But understand this, my child will pass. She will prove them wrong." The next morning, the ritual began. The people couldn't wait but to try it done with an order to appease the gods. The herbalist and the old men led us to the sacred grove at the edge of the village. The villagers followed, their mamas filling the air. Mama held me tightly, whispering prayers as we walked. Papa stayed silent, his step slow and heavy. The grove was quiet, except for the sounds of birds chirping in the distance. A large fire was lit in the middle of the space, its flames rising high. Around the fire was a circle of fresh soil, untouched by human hands. The herbalist explained the ritual. "When the child is placed in the soil, we will call upon the gods," she said. "If the soil stays soft and the fire burns bright, it means the gods have blessed her. But if the soil hardens or the fire dims, it means she is cursed." I could see everything they were doing, but I didn't understand the meaning of such rituals. Mama's hands trembled as she stepped forward, carrying me to the circle. She placed me gently in the soil, her tears falling onto the ground. Ezin, she whispered, stay strong. The herbalist raised her hands, chanting loudly. Her voice echoed through the grove, calling upon the gods to reveal their will. The fire flickered, its flames dancing as if answering her call. The villagers held their breath, their eyes fixed on me. At first, nothing happened. The fire burned steadily, and the soil remained soft beneath me. Then, the flames rose higher, brighter than before. The soil held me firmly, as though it was protecting me. The villagers gasped. The old men fell to their knees. Mama sobbed with relief, pulling me into her arms and holding me tightly. Papa looked shocked, staring at the fire with wide eyes. She is pure, the herbalist declared. The gods have spoken. As the villagers began to leave, Mama looked down at me, tears streaming down her face. You are my gift, she said softly. No one will ever take you away from me. But as Mama and Papa carried me back to the hut, I felt uneasy. The fire had spoken, the soil had held me, but something didn't feel right. The air around me felt strange, heavy, as though it was hiding a secret.